some who consider Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, either the book or the movie, to be the least of the series. Even the Harry Potter fan community are those who concede it's not as interesting or enjoyable as the rest of the series, and while I can sort of see why, I certainly don't hold that opinion myself. In fact, for a long time, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was actually my favorite. And though some of those criticisms are totally valid, and it doesn't connect much to the series' overarching story, something it shares in common with the first movie, I still can't help but feel it's one of the franchise's stronger entries. In spite of a cryptic warning by a troublesome house elf, Harry Potter returns to Hogwarts for his second year, and though he winds up having to get there in Ron's flying car, more exciting than the train anyway, it seems to be business as usual at school. Until a blood-written message appears, and students begin to be attacked, magically petrified by some mysterious creature, all having to do with an ancient hidden chamber being opened, and a plot to purge the school of all Muggleborns. The issues people seem to have with this film is that it's just a retread of the first. It's structured the same, the plot being centered on a mostly self-contained mystery and an ancient power that poses a threat. Both stories share plot points like a Quidditch match that turns life-threatening, and Dumbledore being inconveniently away during the last act, as well as a journey into what looks like the very catacombs of the school. And that prejudice about Slytherins being evil is not only still there, but turned up to 10. A lot of this is inherent to the book, though, and like the first film, this one sticks fairly closely, adapting almost every significant scene, whether it's necessary or not. But there's much more focus in this story on the central plot, the Chamber of Secrets. And while it may follow a number of beats from the previous film, I think this one takes them all to the next level. While Voldemort in the first movie was a largely secret threat, this time the whole school is at stake, and though no one dies, there is a sense of legitimate peril. There are a number of great suspenseful and frightening moments, and on top of all that, there's some good character development. Harry discovers he's a Parselmouse. He can talk to snakes, a power he shares with the namesake of Slytherin House, as well as Voldemort. And so we get the first sense of duology between Harry and Voldemort, as he questions whether he was sorted into the right house. Because there's no way he could be in Slytherin and not be evil. But it does make Harry a little more interesting, especially seeing as we also learn Voldemort's backstory. Just the mention of Riddle's Muggle father is enough to get an idea where he's coming from. This film is much better written than its predecessor, and also introduces an identifiable issue in prejudice. The term mudblood is used, and we learn of the prejudice some wizards have to Muggleborns, though it's hard to take the prejudice seriously when the preferred term is Muggleborns. It's an incredibly direct allegory, but it is believable given the way the society is set up, and makes the world feel in an unfortunate way more real. There are still poorer plot elements, though. You can't help but notice all the conveniences. Like how Hagrid just happened to be in Knockturn Alley to rescue Harry, how the whole school just happened to show up in the corridor where Mrs. Norris was attacked in time to implicate Harry, how the book in the lavatory just happened to be connected to the chamber's opening 50 years prior, or how Malfoy's conversation with the disguised Harry and Ron just happened to be relevant to the plot. That whole Apologies Potion sequence had some problems, and indeed, one of the criticisms I can understand is that the plot takes these grand and elaborate detours that only give the characters slightly more information. It's annoying how Harry and Ron's outbursts in the scene as Crabbe and Goyle come too easily. And why did Hermione turn into a cat need to be included? It's absolutely irrelevant. She never needed to transform herself anyway. I mean, does Malfoy even talk to Millicent Bulstrode? And she's back to herself after literally one scene. It's one of the most pointless moments in the entire series. The search for Aragog yields little information either. Hell, even Ron points it out.
What was the point of sending us in there?
There's an implication at the end that Harry's similarities to Voldemort stem from an unintentional transfer of power, which is an okay explanation for his Parselton, but I didn't like the insinuation that also accounts for his similar circumstances and personality as well. And the film also has a few painful gimmicky one-liners. Lines like, "You wish," and "Don't worry, I will be," just make you cringe. There are also a few choices that aren't good or bad, just weird. For instance, when asked what he was doing in Knockturn Alley, Hagrid clearly seems to be hiding something when he answers, but then it never amounts to anything. There's also the fact that Lucius Malfoy goes to the extreme of starting the killing curse when he's about to attack Harry. I suspect this was just an Easter egg to the books, as the killing curse hadn't been revealed yet in the films, but still kinda stupid. When the plot necessitates it, Harry can speak Parselton on a whim. The Howler, which also could have been cut, seems like a lot of effort to go to just to humiliate your kid, and Hermione's knowledge of every spell situation demands is starting to strain believability and feel like a lazy plot device. Dumbledore's line,
I strongly recommend caution to all.
It's comically vague, and the movie ends on a weird note with Hagrid returning, Harry hugging him in front of the whole school, and everyone cheering. Because that's what this whole movie was about. Hagrid struggled to be accepted. The cast is filled with talent both old and new. Coltrane, Harris, Smith, and Rickman are still very magnetic. Richard Griffiths is still fun and over the top. David Bradley gets to play a different side of Filch and does it well. And I really want to know how much they paid John Cleese for his pair of brief lines, either of which could have been cut. I, for one, would have loved to see Nick's Death Day party, despite how unnecessary it would have been. As for the child actors, while Matthew Lewis still isn't very good, Tom Felton has definitely improved, his prejudice making him much more of a realistically detestable bully. Emma Watson is slightly better, but still struggling, which is why I wasn't too upset that she was sidelined for portions of the story. In fact, one of the reasons I loved this one as a kid was because of the boys' adventure aspect. Nothing against Hermione, but Harry and Ron are quite enjoyable as a duo, even if Ron's high-pitched whines in this movie are famous. Rupert Grint is alright despite this, and Daniel Radcliffe, though some moments feel awkward, is really starting to make strides as an actor in this film. Maybe it's because he and the other male actors in this movie are clearly going through puberty. One of this film's flaws, though, is that, apart from Hermione, you don't care about any of the petrified children. Justin's got almost no setup prior to his attack, and Colin Creevey is annoying enough that it's actually pretty relieving to have him out of commission for a while. He's not the only cause for irritation, though. I love Toby Jones, but his voice of Dobby is almost insufferable. Mark Williams from Red Dwarf is great as Arthur Weasley, but Julie Walters hasn't gotten comfortable as Molly yet, overplaying the part to the point it's almost cartoony. Shirley Henderson, despite being in her 30s, is good as the student ghost Moaning Myrtle. Bonnie Wright as Ginny is okay, but doesn't leave much of an impression. Christian Coulson as Tom Riddle and Jason Isaacs as Lucius Malfoy play sneering, snobby villains very well, particularly Isaacs, who's clearly relishing his screen time. I love Miriam Margolyes as Professor Sprout, though her part just serves a plot point, she's quite fun. The best new performance, though, is Kenneth Branagh, who's perfect as Gilderoy Lockhart, turning what in the book was a fairly one-dimensional character into an enjoyable but subtly sinister, pompous fraud. You know he's full of shit from the start, but there's obviously some secret he's got that comes through in his performance. Funnily enough, he was one of my favorite characters in the series. The effects in this film, though occasionally not all that good, like Dobby and the Howler, are generally wonderful. The Whomping Willow and the spires feel very real, the flue powder effect is alright, Harry definitely said diagonally on purpose. Even the opening title glistens more against a cloudy dawn. The Ford Anglia looks good, the Polyjuice effect is decent, and Fawkes downright amazing. There are moments when I was half convinced it was a real bird. John Williams' Phoenix theme that accompanies him is also one of his most calming tracks. The only effect that's better is the Basilisk, which I think is one of the greatest creature designs in a fantasy film. Not only is it terrifying and practical, but its size, sounds, and movements are chillingly monstrous. When it corners Harry, you feel every bit of his terror. And the chamber itself, like most of these sets, is incredible. The whole climax of the Basilisk may be the best part of the movie, and this movie has a great deal more terrific moments than the first film. I like the introduction of Nocturne Alley, which is basically just Harry transported to Victorian-era Whitechapel. Subsequently, the encounter between Lucius and Arthur I like for the insight it provides in the wizard class system, even if it is a disappointment they don't come to actual physical blows. The flying car scene is a good enough visual. I'm willing to overlook the fact that Ron stranded his parents at King's Cross, and Harry fell out of the car for no reason. McGonagall really should have given them a more severe punishment. There's some good speeches like Hagrid's to Hermione and Harry's to Riddle. Ron's broken wand, which acts as a running gag, comes in use by the end, which I thought was a genuinely good development. Similarly, when I first read the book, I was surprised by the twist of Riddle's identity. And it's executed well enough here, if a little on the goofy side. McGonagall's history of the chamber is a superbly spooky telling, one of Smith's finest moments, alongside her conversation with the other teachers after Ginny's kidnapping. The diary sequence is wonderfully eerie and atmospheric, the faded colors and shadows really create a creepy, almost gothic mood. Despite its general irrelevance, the Aragog sequence is also great and really creepy. I mean, who wouldn't be scared by a giant spire with the voice of Walter Donovan? I love the scene where Harry works out how the Basilisk's been attacking the students. And the warped shots of Ginny's actions in flashback do a good job creating a feeling of discomfort. Finally, there's the awesome moment of Harry defeating the Basilisk, and the clever destruction of Riddle that kind of makes sense even without the later Horcrux context. These scenes are just performed, shot, and all around conveyed brilliantly. Add to that some pretty fun little moments, like Hagrid answering the door with a crossbow, the fact that Magnitude is a Quidditch commentator, and Snape's shrug when choosing Malfoy to duel Harry is freaking hilarious. Am I the only one disappointed that Harry and Ron only broke a dozen school rules? Like the first film, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is a great family movie, but one with the advantage of an added edge. Chris Columbus, I feel, is more out of his element here, but it paid off. Yeah, it may have a long problem with the first film, but I think it's kind of like Evil Dead 2. Everything it took from the original did better here. The story is more in focus, the mystery more exciting with real stakes, the performance is for the most part better, the frights more regular and effective, and the climax so much more intense and thrilling. There are still technically a host of problems. I didn't even touch on the Dueling Club, and a series of arguably needless sequences, they're better undercut by a stronger story. Far from being one of the worst, I think Harry Potter and the Chamber series is actually one of the series' best films. An overlooked movie not only for the franchise, but the genre of kids' fantasy itself. Now as for me, I intend to take Hagrid's advice myself, and follow the spiders to see where that leads me. They're circling the drain. Interesting.